Well, in this fast-changing world of tariffs, we take a look at how this impacts us as a nation. Just last night, news broke that U.S. President Donald Trump has hit a pause, a 3-month pause, on the global tariffs imposed on imports into the United States. But he increased the tariffs of goods coming from China to 125%. That's from 104%. Which it was earlier on. I know for a lot of people it was moment, but is that what it is, really? Well, as you can see, we're joined on the program by the Director General of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, Mr. Segun Ajayi-Kadir. He's also co-interim Secretary General, Pan-African Manufacturers Association. So he's going to give us a Nigerian view and a Pan-African view. Good morning, Mr. Ajayi-Kadir.
Good morning. I'm happy to be here.
Well, I don't know how you are handling these quick changes. First, 14%. Then China responds, particularly to the U.S., says we're doing 84%. The U.S. says from 54, we're doing 104. And now it's 125%. And then for Nigeria, it's back to 10%. I imagine the heads of manufacturers and exporters into the U.S. spinning, like, what's going on? So speak to us first. When you heard 14%, what was that going to mean for manufacturers and exporters into the U.S.? And now that it's back to 10%, what does it mean?
Well, I think that, generally speaking, what Trump is doing is actually shaking the table and is in line with his strategic objective of making America come first for all things. And tariff all over the world is used to achieve several purposes. I think for his own is to directly grow domestic manufacturing and restrict imports, because for a long time, according to him, people have been taking America for a ride. So, but for us, in Nigeria, in terms of manufactured exports, we are only beginning to make inroads as also part of our own strategic objective of mitigating the impact of Forex. So you will expect that in one of the countries that we are expecting to be able to make inroads, there's now a stumbling block, so to say. AGOA is ending September 2025. We are yet to make sufficient inroads compared to maybe South Africa, Kenya, and so on. And then you throw a spanner in the works. So for us, it was a major issue. And we know that when there are retaliatory measures, because there's also collateral damage in what happens between America and China.
Exactly.
I mean, it's going to lead to an uptick in terms of the duty. So even if you are not suffering directly, you suffer indirectly. Taking all of this together, it became a source of worry for us. And we were hoping that we'll be able to find local succor that will allow us to be only moderately impacted and not severely impacted. Because if government goes by way of retaliation, we are also going to suffer because we import capital goods from those countries. So we were worried. And the only relief came when we had the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister for the Economy saying that there's going to be a conversation among the economic team that will also involve the private sector on how Nigeria should respond to it. So we are worried. And even lowering it to 10% is still also a source of worry, because we were operating in a positive balance of trade with America before then. Just January 2025, America had a net negative balance of trade of up to $143 million. So we shouldn't relent in our effort to cope with even this 10%, because it wasn't there before, especially for the more than 6,000 items that are qualified under AGOA. So it's not yet uhuru, and we shouldn't breathe too much so that we slumber.
Just to be clear, AGOA is not really having any effect, because it looks like AGOA has been pushed aside, and President Trump's tariff is what is in play now.
Yeah, unfortunately so. And I was actually wondering why America is so easy to bend. I mean, because AGOA was a valid agreement with 54 plus 1 countries in Africa. and how an executive order or a pronouncement or a tweet on X will just upturn the thing is a source of worry. And I'm even worried now because Nigeria has to think very well. Government has to engage the private sector and all players. We must go granular in the kind of exchanges we have, because the next person to Trump might be worse. And then that means what you are writing does not mean anything. So I think we really need to be very, very strategic in the way we respond to this.
So are you worried extensively about the policy flip-flop in that sense, globally?
Yeah.
So for people who don't know, African Growth and Opportunity Act, these are agreements signed, sealed, delivered, that gives everybody an opportunity to do business with one another. So, but talk to us about your worry around policy flip-flop. We've had that issue here in Nigeria, which has made us lose business, especially in the upstream sector of the oil and gas sector. And now we're seeing what Trump is doing. I like the way he put it, just by a tweet, just by a fiat of an executive order. How should Nigeria prepare for eventualities like this? Because this is a precursor to anything that could happen anytime in the world.
So I think this is a very important question. And I think in the response that Nigeria is going to give, we must take it into consideration. There is no way you can beat an efficient and a conducive business environment for domestic industries. I believe that it builds resilience, and it allows even the intelligence that the private sector has to count. Because no matter what intelligence you have, no matter what strategies you have, government policy will trump it. So I believe that it is important that in building resilience and readiness, we should ensure that the domestic environment in which you operate is supportive. You have supportive regulations. You have assurance of policy, that it is going to be consistently in support. You need to be able to hold in check regulatory agencies that are expected to improve your competitiveness, so that with just any eventuality, because there will always be surprises, you can rapidly respond. So for instance, at this moment, the Standards Organization of Nigeria must be on high alert. The regulatory agencies that, for instance, NPA, that is dangling 15% increase in portals, should just forget it now and never really think about it. The 4% FOB that Custom is talking about should just be, in fact, we should assume we never had it.
I think they've left it up.
Exactly. So these are the things that you need to build a robust sector, productive sector, that will be able to respond to this eventuality. You can imagine if Trump has continued on this track, I'm telling you, our export will just come to nothing. Many people think, okay, because America is deceased in terms of our export, and even China is closing at 3 trillion. I think America is doing 5.5 trillion. But they are deceased in terms of our trading partner. You can imagine that the number 1 to 5, they are going to be badly impacted by Trump. And we are going to suffer collateral damage. So there is nothing you can do other than preparing that in-house. You are ready. And all those regulatory challenges, infrastructure challenges, policies that are inconsistent and not supportive of export, this is the time to completely understand that it does no good, especially for the productive sector.
You know, I was looking at the goods that will be affected by this 14% tariff, you know, had it continued. And I saw some value there. We may not be where we want to be in terms of, you know, exporting and diversification of the economy, but there is some value there. For instance, fertilizer, urea is 20.3 billion naira. Now, this is just a 3-month pause. So upon the announcement in the first place, there has been a huge conversation around, oh, this is the time that Nigeria should look at other markets, you know. And you said earlier, you know, before we started the program, we should not go to sleep regardless. So what are the lessons for Nigeria and maybe indeed other African countries from this 14% tariff experience? And what is the role of the AFCFTA in the first place, you know, to promoting trade, if we were to consider looking at other markets for the promotion of our exports?
Okay. Happily, things have actually been working well for Nigeria in Africa and Africa. For instance, last year, we traded more with Africa than with any other nation on earth. I think our trade was up to 8.7 trillion naira with Africa, whereas it was 5.5 with America. Even China was 3 trillion. So I think that we are already set on a trajectory of making AFCFTA work for our exports and our imports. I believe that's very, very important. And in terms of lessons, we should know that growing intra-African trade is probably the best way for us to survive as individual countries and for Africa to project and make inroads in international trade. Because whether we like it or not, colonialism has led on items. We can concentrate on those ones that we need and use it to negotiate.
And, I mean, we should make no mistake. The world doesn't just need America. America needs the world. And it's been said that America may just, particularly President Trump, may just be overestimating its power, its influence, and importance, because it looks like there's a new world order already, and America may be punching above its weight. But Mr. Segun Ajayi Kadir, Director General, Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, MAN, and Co-Interim Secretary General, Pan-African Manufacturers Association, PAMA, thank you so much for your time on the program.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, we've taken a look at what has been described as the art of the deal of President Donald Trump. But there's more for you on the show as we continue to digest these issues. So stay with us. We'll be right back.